All right, everybody, we are live. Assalamu alaikum, and let's start off officially with chapter number 4. So we completed chapter number 3 last night, and inshallah, in today's class, we're going to finally look into the world of softwares. But before that, let me write chapter number 4 so that you guys can identify when a new topic has started. So the name of the of this specific chapter is software. So it's sort of till this point, if we look up at the order of the topics, you're going to note we started off with the discussion of how does the computer understand the data, like represent the data. Then how can that data be transmitted, right? And then we studied that what are the components used by the computers to not only process and understand the data, but also transmit it here and there and basically store it alongside the way. And right now, we are basically going to be studying a topic where we're going to explore that definitely we know that the computer is going to process some sort of data and that it includes binary stuff and all that stuff. But for a person, like as a user, for one of us, if we are making use of a computer, it's not like we just want to talk with zeros and ones, right? We have some sort of a purpose of making use of computer, and those purposes are basically meant by the software. So in this topic, we're going to be exploring the multiple type of softwares we have, all the way from the softwares required by your computer to the softwares we generally need for our own application purposes. We're going to explore both the aspects, inshallah, in great detail, alongside the benefits, what they are, the features, and everything. And that would be basically the whole essence of chapter number 4. So we're going to start off directly. We won't be wasting much of your guys' time. And so what we're going to be firstly looking into is that we have seen software and we perhaps have heard the word software a lot of times. But now we have basically a different discipline to it. Say, so we have a PC, laptop, say, whatever computer or whatsoever. You have a PC and you have a laptop. The PC and laptop is basically constituting of some electrical components, which we called as hardware. And we studied about all commonly used hardware pieces in chapter number 3. And then based and basically upon these hardwares, like using these hardwares, we make use and we introduce a new thing known as softwares. And these softwares are basically those specific type of applications or those specific set of programs which are used to firstly manage the operation of computer hardware, and maybe to are basically those set of programs which are used to perform various sort of applications. But now we have basically two types of softwares. We generally, when we talk about the word softwares, it's something, it usually refers out to these Google Chrome, the or Microsoft Word we might be having, what do we call it, some games you might be storing on your computer. But the word software basically is a broader term and it has two types, and those types are being discussed up here. So look up here. This is a pretty good table summarizing how this whole thing works. So we have software. What's the software? It's basically a set of program, that specific set of program, which basically allows you as a user to make use of the computer in the right way. Definitely, if I see that I open up my computer, and if I showed you guys a lot of components in the last topic, right, in chapter number 3. So if I just unbox my whole laptop, I take out all the components. So if I have my CPU in front of me, let's say this is my CPU, let's assume, what will I be making use of this CPU? Like, what will I be doing with it? I won't be making use of it, right? It's like an electrical component in front of me, but I can't make use of it. What will I be doing with it? Even if I, let's say, know zeros and ones, the CPU will not be of any use to me unless I use it for a specific application or for a specific purpose. Like, what can be that purpose? Maybe I want to play some game. So like the game now which I want to play is something that will be making use of the components or these hardware which I mentioned earlier on. So the point here to understand is that when we talk about softwares, and the reason why software is basically chapter number 4 and not something which we discussed earlier on, is because this software has a strong connection with the hardware. Your hardware basically provides the platform on which the softwares are running. Now we have two types of softwares. The first one is known as system software, And then the second one is basically known as the application software. So you might have seen we always have stuff like Windows. We have the Mac OS, right? Mac OS. We have the Windows. We might have the Android system. We might have Linux with us. What's all this? It's basically your operating system. So have you ever thought, is it like you just combine these electrical components, you combine a CPU, add some sort of RAM alongside it, maybe connect it to, let's say, some memory and then provide it with some electrical power? Do you think it's going to automatically sort of work and it would be like you just turn it on and you're going to have a Windows installed in it? No, right? Whenever you purchase a new laptop or a new computer, you always have to install Windows in it, or install, unless it's a MacBook in which it's being done by the company. Otherwise, even the company, they're like Apple has to basically install the Mac OS within their device. But for like these laptops, the Windows laptops, they send it to you in a way where you have the open choice to install whatever operating system you want, because you can install Windows. And for a lot of programmers, they also go with installing Linux, which is like one other sort of operating system used for some specific purposes, right? So it's like they either pre-install it, and if they do not install it, they give you the freedom to install whatever you want, right? So now these Windows or these Mac or OS or the Linux or Android system, have you ever thought these are also sort of some softwares, right? Because it is performing a set of operations which are meeting our requirements. But it's not something which was existing there originally. Because if I just combine all these components together, this is just like a rough model. If I just combine all this and I make a laptop out of it, it's not going to be like I press the power button and it has an operating system within it. I have to install it. So this shows to us that while generally we have always thought that applications or softwares have been referring to stuff related to games, maybe these browsers, maybe some sort of Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, maybe some sort of what do we call it, some image taking app or whatsoever, whatever you download or install within your computer. That is something which comes to our mind when we hear the word software. But it's important that your software part also has one other aspect which usually non-computer science kiddos usually ignore, and that is the system software. And the system software usually refers to stuff which are using the hardware for the purpose of operating the computer in the right way, so such as operating system. If you don't have an operating system installed within your computer, you cannot make use of it in the right way, right? It's because these Windows or the Mac OS are present within your computer that you can basically easily use it, right? Without these softwares, without the operating system, you cannot make use of it. And just like that, you have a set of programs known as utility programs. What utility programs are, that will be discussed later on. No need to worry as of now. But these are basically those specific sort of softwares within your computer. Like, let's say, have you ever wondered, your computers nowadays, if you install let's say Windows inside it, they have a built-in antivirus in it. So what's an antivirus? An antivirus is sort of a utility program. But these are basically those type of programs which are there. Not only antivirus, we have like a long list, and we're going to discuss them later on too. But these are basically those specific set of programs which are used to ensure that your computer basically operates in the right way. And just like that, the last system software category we generally have is a device driver, which again a lot of people might not be aware, but is also a software. Like we always say, bro, I purchased this graphic tablet, I'm making use of it, I need a driver. But we never understood what a driver is. A driver is basically a software. And what's the purpose of this software? It's only to allow that your specific hardware can be whatever. Like if I have this what do we call it, graphic tablet with me, so it's basically this device driver acts as a communication method for this hardware so that it can communicate with the computer. So it's like sort of your translator or communicator in between. Translator, or I can say even communicator. So now we need to basically look into these two types of softwares, what their general features are, what are these subcategories we have mentioned down here, because these are those categories which we need to generally discuss over the timeline of this whole topic. And we're going to look into what differences exist and why do we have system software to be like a total utility software. Yeah, sure, I can. So you basically see utility programs are those specific set of programs. Now, what are those programs? We're going to discuss them later on within the course. This is just like a general model of how the topic is going to be carried out. But utility programs are sort of built-in functions or built-in softwares within your computer, which come alongside the operating system. When you install the operating system, they have like a set of programs installed alongside it for the purpose of ensuring that you can basically use the computer in the right way and without any sort of problems. Like you see antivirus, like if you install Windows, you're going to see that a built-in Microsoft Defender comes alongside the Windows now, which has been given the name of an antivirus. But previously in Windows 7, Windows 8, it used to be having the name of Microsoft Defender. So softwares like antivirus, or maybe I can say softwares which are used to basically let's say user management related softwares, which allows you to create new users and stuff like that, or maybe even except apart from that. Yes, Ryan, you have a question? If you guys have any question, just oh, okay, okay, okay. By the way, if you guys have any question, just send them in the chat box. I'm regularly having a look at it, so वो पता लग जाता है. Apart from that, like you can see that your utility software can include stuff related to, let's say, we can say, what if you have some backup software? Like I can say your Mac OS, like the MacBook I have right now, it has like a proper feature which can automatically backup stuff related to that. Or maybe when you install Windows, you can also have file compression or file management stuff, right? So wo sab kuch, basically all that comes under utility program. I'm going to look into all of those components later on. So like what aspects of utility programs are required and what not, what specific things are we exactly supposed to memorize from all of these, and what type of questions are to be expected. All right. So everything which I'm going to be listing down in front of you in terms of notes, that is something which you all should be memorizing. Okay, that is something you should be aware of. Apart from that, if there is something where I'm just explaining it right the way I'm doing right now, it's either for the purpose of making you understand the concept, or it's for the purpose of just completing the topic. If there is something important and it's not listed down within your notes, then I'm going to tell you that this is an important point. Otherwise, the stuff which you need to memorize would be mentioned within your notes. So yeah. And what type of questions? Those are stuff which we're going to which we'll be basically inshallah looking onto once we do the past paper class of this. So don't worry, alongside the content abhi to humne start kiya, this is just like a general model. So I'm going to be telling you what type of questions can you expect once we get into the topic. So Rand, is your question clear? You have a general idea of what utility software now is. It's basically a set of tools which are used for your computer experience to be made better. अब आगे क्या है क्या नहीं है वो हम देखेंगे, but they are basically under system software because they help your computer to work in the right way. It's not like it's there to help you, it's basically there to help the computer run without any sort of specific problem. So आगे हम इसको detail से देखेंगे, but for now we are going to be focusing upon these two terminologies: system software and application software. We need to differentiate between system software and application software. So first and foremost, we need to understand what are the general features of what do we call it? System software. General features of system software. These are stuff which you should be memorizing. Features of system software. Now, if a question comes up in exam stating what a system software is, you can basically list these points, which I'm just going to be talking about. So first and foremost, you need to understand that system softwares are those set of programs which are used to control and manage the operation of your computer hardware. So I'm going to write it as set of programs. Why do I say set of programs? It's not like only one program. You have multiple sort of programs. So like, let's say you have the operating system. Apart from that, you might be having some other software like file management related software, or maybe device drivers, without which you cannot use the computer, right? If you don't have device driver present within your computer, it would be useless. So we say that it's not one program, it's like set of programs used to control and manage, used to control and manage. Why control and manage? This basically means, again, that it can basically allow your computer to be within specific limits. So I can say, what if we want to ensure that the computer is secure? So if I want to ensure that it's secure, I'm setting a controlling boundary to it, right? I'm controlling it so that nothing externally comes in. And likewise, I'm also managing it so that if I want to ensure that everything is going in the right way or not, if anything is going out, I can control that all and do all those stuff. So we say that these are those set of programs which are used to control and manage the operations of a computer system. Operations of computer system, or you can also call it as what do we call it, computer hardware. एक ही बात है, computer operations of computer hardware. Why would a hardware be a better word up here? Because right now, while talking about these system softwares, it's important for you to understand that it's basically those specific programs which are there in touch directly with your hardware. So you can say, if I have my hardware, if I, like, let's say, have my keyboard connected to my PC, keyboard getting connected to my PC. So now definitely if I'm pressing the buttons, the computer cannot understand what I mean by pressing some random buttons, right? This means that pressing the buttons have been converted into zeros and ones for the computer to understand. Now, who was the translator in between? The translator sitting in between was our device driver. And what's a device driver? Device driver is basically a system software. So system software are basically those specific type of softwares which basically control and manage the operations of computer hardware. And they allow you to basically provide a platform on which these tools can work. And not only these tools, but also other softwares. Like, you now have installed Windows on your computer, right? So now you not only have Windows, you can also install stuff within the Windows, right? So now you can download Google browser, Google Chrome, or you can download, let's say, Fortnite or whatsoever, whatever you're trying to download and install within your computer. You're going to note that all that stuff is coming and is basically being installed on the same operating system. So we say that the second feature of the second general feature of basically a system software is that it also provides a platform for other softwares which basically can then run on it. So we say that it provides a platform on which other softwares can run, on which other softwares can run. Just like in the case of operating systems, where we install operating system comes under our system software part, but then we install other applications on it. Apart from that, these system softwares also have one other feature. Just the way I said that it's basically acting as a translator in between, we also say that these general what do we call these system softwares, they are required to allow hardware and software to run without any sort of problems. Required for what reason? For the reason that when I'm talking and making use of keyboard, and on the other side I'm using the keyboard because I'm trying to play some game. Now, game is a software, right? This comes up as a software. This game, this is a software, whereas my keyboard, this is a hardware. So it's basically ensuring that when I'm making use of the hardware and a software together, it does not result in any sort of problem. So the third point is going to be, it is required to allow hardware and software to run without any problems. Required to allow hardware and software to run without any problems. To run without any problems. Done with this point too. Now we need to basically look into the fourth point. And what's the fourth point going to be? It's basically without, now you tell me, if let's say we do not have the operating system installed on our computer, what's going to happen? Have anybody of you ever thought? So like, if you purchase a new laptop and you boot it up for the first time and it does not have any sort of operating system on it, you're going to see it's just going to come up, it's going to show the company's logo, and then it's going to be like you have the options to boot something. And if you don't have anything installed on it, definitely it's going to either ask you to insert something for it to boot, or it can power off, or you can go and look into the BIOS settings. So you have sort of these 2 to 3 options. So this means that if we don't have a system software, the laptop basically is meaningless for us. And this also means that if I'm installing an operating system within my laptop, it is also like providing a platform for me to basically you make use of it. So it's sort of like an interactive whole channel which I can use. It's like an interface for me, which I can make use of to access the other sort of applications which I want to make use of. So without an operating system, it's basically going to be all useless. So we say that the fourth general feature of a system software basically is that it provides a human computer interface. Provides a human computer interface. Now, what's a human computer interface? It's basically everything you are looking up in front of you on the screen at this point. Like you can see these logos, right? You can see the cursor, you can see whatsoever this cross boxes to turn off the tabs, you can see this end call button at the bottom of your screen, you can basically look into this icons or maybe whatsoever all these everything which you can look up on your screen. Because definitely, if I now tell you to, let's say, open up Microsoft Word, what you guys are going to do is that you're going to scroll your mouse, take it to the logo of Microsoft Word, and click on the mouse, and it's going to open. But the computer does not work in a way where it's like it's looking for your mouse. Computer works based upon commands, right? It's like commands or maybe signals or like zeros and ones, binary. So this operating system provides you this human computer interface where you are not required to enter any sort of commands to open, let's say, Microsoft Word. Rather, what you are doing is that you're basically scrolling your mouse and you're pressing the button. So what's this newer technology where you're not required to write the code but basically make use of the mouse? It's basically a human computer interface. So this human computer interface which we have nowadays, which made this whole usage of computers such user friendly for us, that even if you are not aware of programming or coding or how to access something using the terminal, you can still make use of the computer. And that credit basically goes to the system softwares which we have. And what specific type of system software? It's basically the operating system. And finally, this system software has one last feature. Have you guys ever heard the word task manager? So we have a specific tool within our computer known as a task manager. And the purpose of this task manager is to basically allocate resources and look over onto what type of how much data is being occupied by what task, and like if something is going here and there wrong, so it can basically either tell you that something is going wrong, or like what type of processor is being used, or like exactly, Rayan, perfect usage of memory and CPU alongside what's the read write rate at this point for a specific. So it's like basically telling you the whole summary of the computer hardware present within your computer, right? So this shows us that basically there has to be some sort of software present which is also managing these computer allocation, right? The memory allocation, the hardware, what do we call it, usage of the hardware resources and all that stuff. So what type of software is dealing with that? That is also something which is going to come under the system software, and that is basically the last feature of system software. We're going to say that system software controls the allocation and usage of computer resources, controls the allocation and usage of computer resources. So definitely remember the virtual memory part which we studied in chapter number 3, where we said that if one specific thing is not being used at this point, the computer is going to remove it from the main memory and it's going to take it into the secondary memory, right? So who is going to be taking that decision? It's going to be your system software, because the system software has the right to basically manage the allocation as well as the usage of your resources. So if you're not making use of it in the right way, it's going to be just wasting your time, and you would not be able to like access the stuff in the right way. But to ensure that everything is being carried out in the perfect manner, what the computer does is that it introduces a specific software which again comes under the system software part, which has the sole purpose and sole duty of basically allocating and not only the resources but also the usage of the whole stuff we have. So like when we talk about computer resources, we talk about data related to RAM, memory, all that stuff. So yeah, so anything like how much CPU usage is this specific thingy taking, how much RAM does it need, how much secondary memory should I be allocating to it. So all of this stuff is also managed by something we call as a system software. Now these are general features which you all need to memorize. Why? Because in exam a question can directly come up. As a career, you asked about this, right? So like a question can come up, what constitutes of a system software, or what are the general features of system software, or what is a system software. So in that question you need to basically talk about these points, that it's basically this specific set of program which does this, and it has these features. Now I want everybody to let me know in the chat quickly, is this clear or not? System software alongside the introductory part we had before we move on towards the application part. Perfect. Everybody, Shaba, jaldi quickly. That's great. Perfecto. Clear. Something earlier, I guess so. Never mind. So we are done with the system software part. Again, if there are any questions, just send them and press the raise hand button so that it gives me a notification that a question is there. If I do not respond to it immediately, say it. So now we have seen the system software part. Now we are basically going to be looking into the second part, which is the application software. So what are the application softwares generally? We need to now discuss the features of the application software, right? So general features features of application software. Now, before writing them, I would like to tell you guys generally that when we talk about application softwares, it's basically those softwares which we are using, like the users, the softwares which we require. So, like if I want to perform a specific task on the computer, I'm going to be making use of an application software. So it's that specific set of softwares or specific set of programs which allow us to conduct a specific task using the computer's hardware and resources. So the first feature or the first point is that it is basically used to perform various applications on a computer. Used perform perform various applications applications on a computer. So like on your computer, if you are making use of some note taking app or maybe some software. Okay, just so I didn't understand ACI. Okay, chalo bata diya. I just saw it, let me explain that. So see, Ryan, your computer operates using what? Using binary, zeros and ones, right? So you would have seen that the older computers, the one we had in the older time, they were making use of, like, let me show you guys a picture. उससे आप लोग को ज़्यादा समझ आ जाएगी. So like when we had the older computers, they did not have these desktop, they did not have this, what do we call it, क्या कहेंगे, एक second, let me CLI in old computers. So it did not have these icons, it did not have any sort of drag or some sort of features which you can make use of to basically access some sort of software. Perhaps rather you had a system like this where only commands were present. You had to basically select commands from here. And when we had these commands, the problem was that this was something very unfriendly to non-computer science kiddos, right? So if you do not know how to write the code, how will you be basically accessing some specific folder or maybe opening some specific file? It is going to be very difficult, right? And that is pretty much understandable. But then over time, what happened was that people came up and they tried to make this whole thing converted into a format where we have mouse and stuff like that. So for instance, this MacBook's screenshot, which I'm just going to be pasting right now, it's going to be basically, just to summarize it, nowadays we have something like this, right? So if I'm coming back up here, see, we have stuff like this where I can literally just make use of my mouse to open whatever app. Now this one is way more friendlier, right? This whole thing is way more friendlier for me to use. I can make use of my mouse, I can literally do anything with it, and I need no coding experience. No coding experience. I can literally make use of any function within the computer without typing any sort of code. Now, what transitioned from this to this. It's basically the interface. Previously you had to type, so now you can drag and basically click on stuff. So the interface has changed. Now what changed this interface? That is also something that comes under the system software, because it provides us a human computer interface. And when we talk about human computer interface, it means that it is basically providing us a platform like this, which is way more friendlier and easier to use in comparison to the older platforms we had, which required such programming codes. So this is what we basically mean to say when we talk about HCI, that it's the human computer interface. Now this interface is easier for us, right? So this specific format, or just whatever interface I have in front of me, where I can make use of my mouse, where I can make use of the keyboard, where I have functions and all that stuff, for my feasibility is known as HCI, or human computer interface. Now is it clear? So this HCI is also provided to us using a system software, which definitely is the operating system. That's why Windows has a bit of a different desktop, whereas Mac OS has a bit of a different operating, what do we call it, desktop screen. So that's the main point when we talk about HCI. That's written. All right. So now we have seen system software, and we looked into one of the points related to application software. Apart from this, the second point is sort of again the re-explanation of the same first point. But the second feature of an application software is that it allows us to perform a specific task using the computer's resources. Allows the user to perform a specific task, using the computer resources. Task using the computer's resources. Now, an important point here to note in regards to your exam would be, just have a look at the word user. I did not write allows the person to perform a specific task, or allows the boy to perform a specific task, or allows a girl to perform a specific task. You need to ensure that while answering your paper number 1 questions, make use of the exact keywords the examiner is looking for, which also means that you should be making use of computer science related terminologies. So rather than someone saying allows the person to perform a specific task, you should be making use of the keyword user. Now it's not necessarily a keyword, or it's not like something which will be there to give you marks for, but it's like something which gives a good impression. As a computer science kid, it's necessary that you try your best to write the answers in a way which is according to the computer science standard. So in computer science, we call any person, whether that's a male or a female, we always say it's a user. So it allows the user to basically perform a specific task. Now it could be anything, right? It's not like the application is only there for me to watch videos. I can watch videos, I can play games, I can write my essays, I can submit my assignments, I can fill out on documents and do way more things, right? All the way to creating models, to editing stuff and what not, right? So all that stuff cannot come under one task. So we say that these application softwares are basically multiple sort of different softwares, where each software allows us to perform a specific task, but all of those tasks requires the computer resources. But again, the resources allocated to these application softwares are done and dealt by the system software. So like the system software manages and controls where and to which application how much resources do we need. But again, when we make use of these application software, it's important to understand that the application software cannot run on its own. It's also there, and it's basically making use of the hardware which we have. So it's basically making use of the computer resources. So when we talk about the word computer resources, it means that it's basically talking about usage of hardware. So यहाँ पे लिख भी देता हूँ, usage of hardware. So this is one extra point which should be clear for your own understanding. Apart from that, you should be also aware that these application softwares are not necessary to be loaded every time, right? So like if I turn on my computer using the power on button, there is a great chance that the moment I turn it on, all the system softwares are automatically brought into action. So like the operating system is turned on, which automatically turns on the utility programs, and definitely when the OS turns on, operating system is basically having the short form of OS. That's why we have Mac OS or Android OS, which is basically operating system. So this OS when this turns on, it needs to interact with the hardware components. And for it to communicate with the hardware, this means that we also need to turn on the device drivers, which essentially means that all the system softwares are turned on the moment you turn on the computer. But that's not necessary for my application software. Maybe I have some Fortnite stored on my computer, but now it's the exam time and I'm not turning on and I'm not playing Fortnite, but it's still within my computer. But I'm making use of, let's say, a word processor, which might be for editing my essay. So one another aspect to discuss up here is that these softwares are not necessarily required to be turned on the whole time, and it's like up to the user. The user can execute the software as and when they require. The user can execute the software as and when they require, as and when they require. Apart from this, one last feature about these application softwares is that you can have a single program or like a suite of programs, and they both can come under application software. What do I mean by this? I basically mean to say, you might have heard the word Microsoft 365, right? So what's Microsoft 365? Microsoft 365 is basically a whole set of package by Microsoft which provides you all the office tools. So this includes all office tools like Word, this includes PowerPoint, this includes Excel, this includes Access and whatnot, everything out there. So up here, this can be called as a suite of application, right? So we have like a whole set of applications altogether, set of applications. So it is given the generalized name of Microsoft 365. So up here, Microsoft 365 is a set of different applications. Whereas we can also say that Microsoft Word. So if I have to only get MS Word, that can also come under a different like application terminology, like so basically it's also a type of application software, right? So we say that these application softwares can be a single program or they could be a set of programs. They can be a single program, can be a single program, or of programs. So it's up to you. You can call both of them as application software. Why? Because even if we talk about Microsoft 365, it's an application software, and which includes all of these things. So we call it like a set of different applications. Whereas if I have to only deal with Microsoft Word will also be. So is it true while listing, we cannot use brand name while listing examples? Yes, this is something which I, by the way, won't lie. I do not have an official backing to this by the examination body. So I'm not sure though whether examiner have mentioned this somewhere, but generally, whenever you have your IGCSE O level or A level examination, it's advised not to write any sort of brand names. Why? Because these brand names have a copyright trademark alongside them. So if you make use of a Microsoft Word, you do not have the rights to basically make use of the word on your paper, right? So there is a possibility they do not give you a credit for it, or it can even be categorized as a copyright claim. But again, that is something which I have also heard, and I'm not sure to how strict Cambridge would be in this regard. So to be on the safe side, my advice would be to ensure that you do not mention the names of the companies. You're going to study the names of these softwares. In this same topic, we're going to understand that MS Word is basically a word processing software, and Excel is basically a spreadsheet software, and a PowerPoint is basically a presentation software. So we're going to give the generalized name for those. And so if you want to look and basically want to discuss them in exams, you need to make use of those names. Otherwise, you might not be awarded a mark and it can result in problems for you. So do not make use of the company names in your exam. Clear? So now these are basically the features of application software. Now, this was something you guys were required to be aware of. Now, what we need to do is, now we need to basically dive a bit further into what are the examples of typical application softwares which generally you all are required to know. So we sort of have like 8 application softwares, and rather than discussing each of them separately, that's going to take a lot of time. We have a pretty good sort of an image which summarizes the key points, and we're going to basically look into those points and going to discuss them in great detail. So now, right now in front of you, you're going to note that you can see all these 8, थोड़ा सा छोटा कर देता हूँ, these sort of 8 applications, and these are those application softwares which you all are required to know for your exam. So starting off, just the way I said, in exam, if you have to talk about Microsoft Word, you should not be stating the word MS Word. You should write a word processor. Say, so don't mention MS Word or Word. Don't mention MS Word. Just write word processor. And what's a word processor? A word processor is basically that type of software which is basically used to manipulate a text document. So what do we mean by manipulation? It basically means that you want to edit it. So it's, if it's blank, you can add text onto it. If it's like an essay written, you want to edit it, you can do that. Otherwise, what else? It is basically a whole software which allows you to basically manipulate or make changes or make or basically edit a text document such as an essay or a report. So what happens in a word processor is that some sort of text is entered using a keyboard or like a software where like you might be making use of microphone or like touch screen, and you're entering the data, and then this software, the words processor, it is that software which allows you the tools to copy stuff, delete stuff, maybe have some sort of formatting, like you can have bullet points, you can have paragraphs and all that stuff. And this whole features set, the set of features which we just saw, are basically combined together into one program which is basically given the generalized name of word processor. Now Microsoft Word or WPS Word or whatsoever office apps you have, they are a type of word processor or like a software which come under word processor. So in exam, don't mention MS Word or WPS Office, mention the word processor. And what are some of the functions? Now these are again important because in exam they can ask you to tell us what are the functions of a word processing software. So your word processing software can basically create, edit, save, and manipulate text. So you can create a new essay, you can edit an existing one, you can save the essay which you were writing, you can basically alter it according to your own needs. Apart from that, definitely if I'm copying something, I can directly paste it onto it. That is one other feature a word processor allows us, and that's a function of it too, that it basically copies and paste and allows us to basically deal with the functions of copy and paste. Apart from that, you would have also seen that word processor a lot of times also have a built-in thesaurus, which is a dictionary. Say, so you would have seen you have your spellings being automatically marked, and if there is some sort of an error, it's basically going to tell you on your own. So like it's a dictionary present for you guys within the software for the purpose of explaining everything, right? And then apart from that, word software also has this one function, that it is that software which allows you to insert photos or images, so that you can, if you want to make a report and want to create a structured sort of report or structured sort of document which might require some formatting or something, so it's not like the image is just popping up. It's when you import or insert the image, you can basically alter it and again manipulate it and convert it into a structured page format. And finally, your word processor, if it's connected to the internet, can also provide you the opportunity to translate one document into foreign language. So maybe I have like a whole document in English, and I can make use of a specific function of the latest word processor softwares, and it's basically going to convert it and translate it into a foreign language. So it can convert that English into Urdu for me. So yeah, and this set of software is basically what we call as a word processor. Is this clear, everybody? Word processor and the stuff we studied just before this in the chat box. Quick. That's great. Baki बताएं. Perfect. So see, clear? That's great. All right, now we have seen what a word processor is. Now we basically need to look into what a spreadsheet is. So have you guys ever used Microsoft Excel? You would have definitely seen something related to Excel. It's that specific sort of software where you can input data, you can use it for the purpose of making calculations or maybe graphs and stuff related to data plotting, and right. So we don't mention Microsoft Excel in exam, we call it a spreadsheet, like, because what's a spreadsheet? It's basically that specific type of software which is used to organize and manipulate numerical data. So if I'm storing your marks, let's say, of your assignments, I can do that in a Microsoft Excel or like in a spreadsheet software, because it allows me to organize your data and it also allows me to manipulate it. So like I can add it, I can change it, and stuff goes here and there. But I can basically change and store data within a specific page, right? And spreadsheet allows me to do that. How? Because when I look up and I open up a spreadsheet, I see that all the numbers are organized on a grid of letter columns and number rows. And then the grid is made up of cells, and each cell is identified using a unique combination, blah, 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 blah. What are this? Coming to this later on. But what can your spreadsheet do? It can basically use formulas to carry out calculation. It can produce graphs, and it can also do modeling. So like these are basically those specific sort of softwares which not only allow you to store data, but also make calculations on it, or maybe use it for the purpose of creating graphs or analyzing data. So like for instance, I have one thing for you. Let me show it. Just give me a minute. Let me open Microsoft Excel for you guys so that I can explain it to you directly. So let me just screen share. Oh, my bad. So screen share. Can I get, yeah. So right now in front of you, you're going to see that this is a Microsoft Excel booklet opened up. So on the text, we saw that it's basically everything is being organized in a way where you have like this numbers in the row wise, and then you have letters columns wise. See? And so like every column and a number has a specific position. Like this one is known as a cell. This specific slot where I can enter one number is known as a cell. So I can write the number 1, 2, 3, 4. So this specific block is known as cell, which was there in your book or in this specific document which has been pasted on your screen, which I was just showing right now. While you were looking up there, it was stated that it's basically making use of a grid. So that's the grid. You see, you have basically columns and you have rows, and it's making a grid where each specific slot where you can enter a value has a unique value, unique position. So now this one, this where I have entered 1, this has the unique position of A1 written up here too. So if I look up here, this should be C and then 11. So you see C11. So everything has basically a unique position. And now we can conduct multiple functions on this too. Like for instance, if I want to add values, I can do equals to sum, which is like a function, and I, let's say, want to do add these five, the first, let's say, 5 numbers, and I'm going to just press enter, and right now it's going to give me a sum of 10. So 4 plus 3, 7, 9, 10. So now let's say I want to add 5, it's going to be 15. I want to add 6 into it, 21. So I'm basically making use of mathematical calculations up here at this point. So now we are coming back to the same discussion which we had earlier on. This is what we were looking into, right? So we have the spreadsheet which make use of these formulas to carry out the calculation, and this can be used to further create graphs and also do modeling and calculations related to what if this thing happens, what if that happens, and blah blah blah. That is something which we call as a spreadsheet. Just like that, we also have one third type of application software which we call as a database. Now what's a database? A database is basically that specific software which is used to organize your data. So maybe I conduct a research, or maybe I'm basically from your local housing society, and I'm going to come to every house and I'm going to just see how many people are there in every house. I'm conducting a survey. So where's the data of the survey being stored? On a computer. The software where the data is basically stored is known as a database. So a database is that specific type of software which is used to organize, firstly, manipulate and analyze data. So you can basically arrange it according to your own needs. You can add and remove stuff, and you can analyze it, that what are the trends and all that stuff. So how is a database formed up? It's similar to the same spreadsheet one, where you basically have one or more tables. Well, we're going to study this inshallah more in chapter number 10. So you're going to understand this, sorry, in chapter number 9, my bad. So you're going to study this in chapter number 9, where you're going to understand what we mean by these tables. But it's sort of, you can say, a different sort of a table is basically a combination of rows and columns. So when we have multiple rows and columns, we call them tables. So, yeah, so we can have these rows and columns where each row is called a record and each column has the name of a field. So like this thing is known as a record, this storing data in horizontal way, whereas the column wise we call it as a field. And again, this stuff will be clarified further on once we get to chapter number 9. So don't worry, ye abhi ratta nahi maanna iska, it's just for your own understanding. And either way, once we start P2, you're going to understand that this was something super duper easy. So no need to worry. Apart from that, you should be aware that this basically the database is that software which allows you the basic structure for the organization of a data within the database. So like if I have all the data in front of me, I can organize it into a way where I want to store the names, right? So I can say age less than 18, all names up here. Age less than 40, all names here. Age less than 80, all names here, and so on, right? So we can basically alter the data in this way. So when I want to extract some data from a database, the method which is basically used to extract the data from a database is known as creating queries, right? So to extract data, we say that we need to basically create a query. A query is basically that specific set of steps which allows you to extract data from your database. So one other feature of a database or a function of a database is that it allows or it has the ability to carry out queries on database to produce a report. And alongside that, your database allows the function of adding, deleting, and modifying data within the table. So if you have one research completed but you have extra data coming in, you can add it. You can remove the stuff which is no longer required. You can modify stuff, and that does help you make the whole experience much more easier for you. So right now, these application softwares are those softwares which the users are making use of for the purpose of conducting specific tasks. Now, this is not the only list which you guys need to be. So it's not like you guys are thinking that we are only going to be looking these sort of 8 softwares. There are multiple other application softwares too, but at your level for your exam, these are the application softwares you guys should be aware of. Now we have looked up into 3 of this application. Now we're going to look into the fourth one, which is control and measuring software. So it's basically that specific set of software which is designed to allow a computer or a microprocessor to interface with sensors, right? So like if you guys remember, definitely what if I have like a security system, a software created which is basically connected to a sensor that is hearing the voice at the front of my house, and that if somebody comes in into, like, let's say my backyard, I can basically hear him and then I can play a sound or a siren, right? So how is that being dealt? For that, we have a software which we call as a control and measuring software, because it basically talks with your hardware and basically interacts or is like an interface for the sensors, so that it can not only measure quantities such as temperature, such as sound, such as pressure, but also control applications such as, like, if a sound is being detected, then you can play a sound or maybe turn on the lights or do something. So for that, remember, if you guys have watched the video which I uploaded for the control and monitoring system within chapter number 3, you're going to know that your control and measuring software basically is that CPU software which we use towards the end, that looks whether the data is outside the range or not. And if it's outside the range, it is going to be sending out signals to alter process parameters, which means that it can basically turn on lights, turn off lights, or maybe play some sound, or maybe stop the acid basically flowing into that specific beaker or whatsoever. So control and measuring softwares are basically used for that feature. Apart from that, the next application software which we have is known as the photo editing software, which is pretty much very straightforward. It is that software which are used to basically manipulate digital photographs. So when we say manipulation of digital photographs, this basically means that you're editing your photos. And when we talk about editing of photos, we mean to say that we are changing colors, we can change brightness, we can change the contrast, we can increase the brightness, decrease it, we can add different sort of filters and whatsoever. We say that these are those softwares which allows us to create a new form of image, and they allow the photographer to remove any sort of unwanted items or maybe even generally improve the image. So you would have seen too that a lot of models, and what they do is that they take a picture firstly and then they later on edit it. Sir, could you please explain? Oh, sorry, I just saw that. Sir, could you please explain the case in which spreadsheet and database would be better than the other, and are they going like this regarding which app you go? So you need to understand one thing. Spreadsheet is a total different software. and a database is a total different software, right? They are not used for the same purpose. A spreadsheet is used for the purpose where you basically adding data onto it for the purpose of organizing it and then to conduct calculations on it. So you're basically using formulas to basically calculate stuff. So like your Cambridge examination, all the marks are added to a spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet basically has a software and it conducts those calculations, which allows to form that threshold which we call, right? Whereas database is that specific software where you are basically adding the data of a survey, of some sort of report or some sort of data collection you have done. So when you do data collection, you want to store that is being added into survey, into a database. But then a database can get you data such as like you can say how many people are there in this colony with an age of 20 or greater. So that's a question to which an answer could be given by a database. Whereas a spreadsheet, on the other hand, will be something like, okay, these are the marks, let's form the graphs. Okay, this is the standard deviation. This is the mean. This is the average of the class. This will be the A grade threshold. This could be the B grade threshold. This will be the A star threshold. This is the highest marks obtained. This student gets a distinction and whatsoever. So it's basically the cases in which a spreadsheet and a database are being used, they are different. So you would never get a question in which you're going to say that the examiner will expect you to write which one is going to be better. There are no such scenarios. Either way, if a question comes up on what application might be used, do keep it in your mind that if you are collecting data for the purpose of analyzing it, as in like for a survey or for a report, then that's going to be going into database. But if you want to collect and analyze data based upon some mathematical calculations, such as forming graphs, such as let's say altering some other stuff, then that is going to be dealt using spreadsheet. Is that clear? And to the second part, there won't be such questions usually. And if there are, they're going to give you a specific scenario. And then based upon that scenario, you need to basically judge as to what software will be the best one alongside all these softwares which we have been discussing. But generally, a question can come up, what's a photo editing software? So you need to tell them what a photo editing software is and what are the functions of it. Say, clear? Ryan, is this clear now? Perfect. So now, just like the photo editing software, we also have a video editing software, which is again very much clear to us that it's that software where you can manipulate video. So you see, it's not using the video word changing or editing or stuff like that. It's making use of the word manipulate, which can be used literally everywhere. So it's making use of a software which of a terminology which a computer science kiddo should be using. So in your exam, you should also go for writing words such as manipulating videos to produce a new videos. Like you can add titles, you can change the colors, you can increase the brightness, you can add new sounds to it, or maybe you can also rearrange, add, remove, or maybe like introduce new stuff onto it, whether it's like a video clip or an audio clip or even an image. You can, apart from that, apply color correction, you can apply filters, you can add other sort of video enhancement tools, you can add what do we call it, transitions and whatnots. And you can also basically join multiple sort of different videos all together into one specific video using transitions, or by making use of the editing software where you can cut it wherever you want. So like you don't want a specific part of your video, you cut that, you remove that. You want to join a specific part of a movie which was shot like 50 years ago, you just download the clip, you add it alongside the video which you are creating, and boom, you have the software uh, creating a totally new video which has those changes being done in the right way. So these changes, or the software used for the purpose of manipulating such sort of videos, is known as a video editing software. And this basically marks 6 of the 8 application softwares. We are inshallah going to be discussing these two tomorrow, and will be then moving towards the system software applications, inshallah. But for now, I want you guys to let me know, is this all clear or not? Do you guys have any questions regarding anything which we studied in the whole class today? If anything is not clear, let me know so that I can re-explain it to you. Everything clear? Perfect. Ryan, clear? Ryan, or do you have any questions? All right. If it's clear, that's great to know. All right, then that's it for today because it's 10:02 and we're going to start off from this part inshallah tomorrow. See you guys inshallah tomorrow. Take care. Allah Hafiz. That's all for today. Allah Hafiz. Allah Hafiz.